we have stopped here along this very busy stretch of Highway 88 between Ione and Jackson, California, here in Amador County, to show you this marker right back here. Identifies the spot where Mike Tovey was killed on June 15th, 1893 in a stage holdup. So here it is along a stretch of Highway 88 is the marker. It was placed here in 1929. It's a slab of, looks like granite. It's a memorial marker marking the spot where Mike Tovey was assassinated, right here on this spot, with his driver, who was named to wit Clinton Radcliffe. He was a stage driver. He was injured on this spot on June 15th, 1893. It was a lone bandit who attempted to hold up this regular 6-horse stage on the old Ione and Jackson stage road. A line of stages was established in 1850 running between Sacramento and Sonora via Q Ranch near Ione, Jackson, McComie Hill, Angels Camp, and Columbia. Over $265,000 in gold bullion is said to have been carried in the early days over the main route to the Motherlode and to the southern mines. In memory of these and many other brave, intrepid, self-sacrificing, and loyal Wells Fargo messengers and stage drivers of California, this tablet was placed here by the Historic Landmark Committee of the Native Sons of the Golden West and the Native Sons and Daughters of Amador County in 1929. The shotgun messengers who rode for Wells Fargo risked their life and limb to protect the company's treasure boxes, which contained large sums of cash or gold. Between 1855 and 1915, at least 53 Wells Fargo expressmen, most of the messengers, died in the line of duty. 19 of them were slain by outlaws. You will see that several people have shot this thing with bullets. The bullets are no longer in it unless they dropped in the bottom. But somebody was pretty dead-eye. They hit the stagecoach. I understand that several thousand people were out here on the dedication day, including Wells Fargo company officials, state officials, local officials, and members of the Native Sons of the Golden West. We came to the Jackson City Cemetery, and it wasn't very difficult to find the grave of Mike Tovey. Here he is, in memory of Martin Mike Tovey. He was born in Perth, Canada, February 4th, 1842. He died June 15th, 1893. Look at that inscription, that's incredible. He was shot and instantly killed by a robber who attempted to hold up the stage on which he was traveling as a guard, erected as a tribute of respect by his employees, Wells Fargo. Somebody put an American flag on it. Wells Fargo employees were devastated. He was quite the legendary guardman. I'm sure that you've all watched westerns where the stagecoach had somebody in the driver's seat, the driver, and then some guy next to him, usually wearing a duster, armed with a shotgun. He was called the Wells Fargo messenger. I'm not sure why he was called messenger, other than the fact that having a shotgun was a message: you better not rob this stage because you're going to end up dead. Unfortunately, Mike Tovey was the one that ended up dead. He was a legendary messenger man. He was originally assigned to Bodie, and he guarded the Bodie to Carson City stage.
Born in Canada in 1842, Tovey immigrated with his family to the Midwest when he was 6 years old. During the Civil War, Mike drifted west and became a writer for Ben Holliday's Overland Mail and Express Company. Wells Fargo heard of his stellar performance and in 1871 signed him on as a shotgun messenger on the bandit-infested stage route from the Union Pacific Railhead in Corrigan, Utah territory to Helena, Montana. Tovey established a reputation of fearlessness that matched his large frame. Amador County Sheriff Ulysses Gregory led the investigation into Tovey's murder. The primary suspect was Milt Sharp, who was convicted of robbing Tovey's stage near Bodie on September 4, 1880, and who later escaped prison. In 1893, Tovey began receiving threatening letters signed Sharp, saying that he had better leave Wells Fargo service and get out of the state, otherwise he would be apt to be killed. It was never proven if Sharp sent those letters or just someone using his name. That Nevada robbery took place while Tovey was guarding the stage between Carson City, Nevada and the mining town of Bodie, California. Tovey bravely defied the robbers' orders to throw down the strongbox. He took aim, his buckshot instantly taking the life of Sharp's partner in crime, ex-convict William C. Jones, alias Frank Dow. Tovey had been shot in the arm by Milt Sharp, who eventually made off with $750 after Tovey had been taken away for a doctor miles away. Evidence linked Sharp to the robbery, and he was sentenced to serve 20 years in the Nevada State Prison. Sharp had broken out of prison in 1889 and had been running from the law for 4 years prior to Tovey being murdered. Tovey continued in his work, spending time on stages in Utah, Montana, Arizona, and finally back to Nevada. In 1884 at Hawthorne, Nevada, Tovey was shot and wounded by Bill Withrow, a gunfighter and former Wells Fargo messenger whom Tovey had accused of complicity in a stage holdup. Sheriff Gregory issued a wanted poster with Sharp's photo, which led to his arrest in Red Bluff. However, he was released after providing alibis that he was nowhere near Jackson when Tovey was murdered. Wells Fargo's chief detective Jim Hume doubted that Sharp was responsible. In the aftermath, Sharp was pardoned in 1894 after serving half of his term for the Nevada robbery. Eventually, a petty thief named Bill Evans confessed to the murder, but many believed it was a coerced confession. Evans, who had no lawyer present, later recanted, saying he was drugged and set up by a sheriff eager to solve the high-profile case. Newspapers expected a not guilty verdict because of the volume of conflicting evidence. Not even Wells Fargo detectives were convinced that Evans was guilty. But following 2 criminal trials and 3 hours into deliberations, a jury convicted Evans. A possibly framed and innocent man was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Mike Tovey's grave is just one of thousands of graves here. I wonder how many people actually come by and pay tribute to him. So what I'm going to do is just walk around and see what kind of graves we can find that look interesting. Maybe they have stories to tell. I think these are strange looking. They look like the bodies are in that. It almost looks like a barbecue. But the bodies are buried inside, above ground, in bricks. That's kind of scary because this one over here looks like it's just been, I'm not sure. Look at that. I'm not sure what happened there. If the grave was robbed or what. I want to show you this grave over here. It caught my eye. It's Kirkwood. And it's this giant marble ball for Walter S. Kirkwood, 1872 to 1939. Isn't that awesome? It's like a work of art.
Hey, look! They like checkers.
Was that Mercer? Frank Mercer and Dorothy and Ella.
And Ella. Wait, who's Dorothy? She don't have a last name. Or is she?
Probably all.
Oh, it says, you can't barely read that.
They're Mercers.
Mercer. Cool ironwork, but it doesn't have a
We have a wooden
marker.
marker. Those do not last. Only poor people could get those, I guess. Probably was a baby. What's it say?
It's a baby. It looks like it says Willie Johnson.
Johnson, born
It looks like born March 21st.
1916 and died
Then, what is that?
May 3rd, 1916. Little baby.
What is this? Oh, never mind. It says died. So only 2 months old. Less than 2 months old. Yeah, and it made it look like a cradle.
So I'm not cussing, but that's a YG Fukying, 1846 to 1934. These are so badly worn you can't even make them out. Look like odd fellows.
Little loaves of granite. What is this, granite?
Mary Ann Agard died
Agard?
1860. She was 22. And then we've got a World War I infantryman, died in 1960, Ralph Mackenzie. There's a Reggio. A lot of Italians populated this area. This one passed away in 1865. And right here is the grave of Edward C. Trowbridge. He was born in Battle Creek, Michigan in 1845, and he died in 1874. He was just 27. I sure hope that this is not an example of graveyard theft, but probably both the bodies are removed from this one. It's kind of gross. Looking for the grave of U.S. Senator Farley. Catholic Cemetery in 1914. Now this is a very interesting grave. Actually, we don't know if it's where she's buried, but her signature, 1869 signature, is on this. It was on a petition that only men normally signed. We don't know exactly where her body is buried, but she was known as Madame Pantaloons. She was a French immigrant who was arrested in both Virginia City and San Francisco for the major crime of wearing men's clothing. She was a minor and owned a winery near Clinton, which is close by here. Like I said, this is a plaque for her, but her exact gravesite is not known. It's so funny because I was raised in a very conservative community back in the 1970s, and I remember one of the big controversies was this girl that was a little bit younger than me. She wanted to wear pants to school, and the principal forbid her. There was a big fight over it, and I think eventually she won, but talk about backwards. I cannot say with any degree of certainty, but that's supposed to be the grave of U.S. Senator James Farley, who died back in 1886.
James Thompson Farley served as a U.S. Senator from 1879 to 1885. He practiced law in Jackson. He served in the state legislature and became a major leader of the Democrat Party in California. His first run for the U.S. Senate in 1874 was halted by his opponent, who was Governor Newton Booth. However, 4 years later, he was elected to that seat. The Napa County Reporter newspaper said at the time of his January 22, 1886 death that Farley was poor and only owned a homestead worth $500. That might explain why his grave lacks any marker today. Wife Flora, who died in 1901, is here next to him.
This is the grave of Jesse Foote Turner. It looks like he was a county judge of Amador County. He was born in Delaware County, New York. He was born Christmas Eve, 1810, and he died August 28th, 1871. You know, it's a Saturday, and we are walking around among dead people, and there's life around us. There's a basketball court up there, school's up there, and kids have been bouncing balls and yelling, but what a contrast. I mean, you got this dead place nobody has visited today, hardly, and you got life all around us. It's kind of a shame that this marker has been broken too for Joseph B. King, died 1871. Pretty elaborate scrolling here. He was 41 and from Georgia. David Wells died October 25th, 1856. He was 37, and his wife died just before that. She was 34. But look at that inscription for Cornelia Wells. She made home happy. Henry Storrs, native of Bourbon County, Kentucky, died 1885, and his wife Louisa Storrs died months before.
History Hunters is not finished in Jackson and will present additional videos on the historical town itself, the Argonaut mine disaster, and additional personalities buried in Jackson cemeteries.